Hello, everyone, and welcome to WION Live Broadcast from New York. I'm Susan Tehrani. First, let's get you up to speed with this hour's headlines. Greece freezes assets of a vice president in the European Parliament following allegations that Qatar lavished cash and gifts on EU Parliament officials to influence decision-making. Kremlin calls for a, quote, diplomatic resolution to a recent flare-up in tensions in Kosovo following attacks targeting the police. A loud blast and gunfire are heard in the Afghan capital Kabul near a hotel popular with Chinese business visitors. Iran executes a second man in connection with protests that have shaken the regime for almost 3 months, defying international outcry over its use of capital punishment against protesters. Three people are dead, including 2 police officers, after being shot at a remote property in Queensland in Australia. Police declare emergency as the offenders are still at large. More than a decade before the 9/11 attacks in New York, another incident of international terrorism had shook the world. In 1988, a bomb was detonated over Scotland on a moving flight. And about 34 years later, the families of the victims are now looking at long-awaited justice. A Libyan intelligence official was accused of making the bomb that downed the flight. Abu Masoud al-Marimi is now in U.S. custody and will face many federal charges. American authorities in December 2020 announced charges against him. At that time, Masoud was in Libyan custody. The arrest is being seen as a milestone in the decades-old investigation. He is the third Libyan intelligence official charged in the U.S. for the attack. In 2001, al-Megrahi was jailed for life over the bombing. He died in Libya in 2012. He is the only man to be convicted so far. But Masoud would be the first to appear in an American courtroom for prosecution. Let's tell you about the details of what happened in 1988. On the evening of December 21st, a Boeing 747 with 259 passengers took off from London. But about an hour later, a bomb detonated mid-air over Scotland, killing everyone on board. The wreckage fell in Lockerbie and neighboring areas, killing 11 more residents. The flight was bound for New York, so the majority of flyers were American, among them 190 U.S. citizens. 35 of those 190 were university students flying home for Christmas. There were also nationals from 21 different countries. It came to be known as the deadliest terrorist attack on British soil. An FBI affidavit claims that Masoud admitted to building the bomb and working with 2 other co-conspirators. U.S. officials say the confession came while the accused was in Libyan law enforcement's custody. However, a lawyer of one of the accused narrates a different story.
What we found was that Masoud is actually in the custody of a warlord who has been widely condemned for human rights abuses, and the circumstances in which that confession was extracted would be strongly opposed, I suspect, in any US criminal justice system or the Scottish criminal justice system.
U.S. and European prosecutors say that the Libyan government was hesitant at first, but later surrendered those accused. However, the Tripoli-based government says that they are open for cooperation. Remember, since the 2011 civil war, the country has been divided between rival governments in the East and the West. Each have been backed by international parties, and this political chaos has opened a gap in the country where militia groups have found the perfect space to thrive and amass great wealth. The U.S. Air Force was planning to supply Ukraine with the older version of a Predator drone, but the issue resulted in a prolonged stalemate due to the Pentagon's concern over sensitive technology. The U.S. Air Force decided to scrap the older version just a month before Russia invaded Ukraine. However, the Pentagon is yet to make a decision on the issue. According to reports, this has raised concern that the transfer of sensitive technology could fall in the hands of Russia. These killer drones were built to support U.S. forces in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. The MQ-9 Reaper and MQ-1C Grey Eagle have been Ukraine's top priority requests. Both these drones offer long-range surveillance and strike capability essential for Ukrainian forces. Kyiv has been requesting long-range weaponry from Washington for months now. And according to reports, the Ukrainian officials are now frustrated by the Pentagon's indecision, even after having pledged to use the donated drones to attack only Russian positions inside Ukraine. However, the drones are not off the negotiating table, as U.S. authorities are trying to make one or both drones transferable to Ukraine. Meanwhile, some U.S. lawmakers are also trying to pressure the U.S. administration to provide Ukraine with Reaper and Grey Eagle drones. Moving on to Saudi Arabia, where the kingdom has said that Gulf nations will be forced to shore up their defenses if Iran obtain nuclear weapons, highlighting concerns among West Asian countries over Tehran's controversial nuclear program. Speaking at a policy conference in Abu Dhabi, the Saudi foreign minister said, quote, "If Iran gets an operational nuclear weapon, all bets are off." Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud said that we are in a dangerous space in the region, adding that countries neighboring Iran will certainly look towards how they can ensure their own security. Now, this comes after recently the United Nations nuclear chief raised concerns over Iran's announcement that it was enriching its nuclear plant. Saudi Arabia has for long been skeptical about the now defunct Iran nuclear deal. Its foreign minister said that it's in its efforts to revive the JCPOA, but on a condition that it will be a starting point, not the end point, for a stronger deal with Tehran. Prince Faisal expressed that the signs are not very positive, and that the kingdom would like an assurance from Iran that their nuclear plant would not be used to make nukes. The statement comes as talks to revive the 2015 Iran nuclear deal hit another stalemate. Western nations have accused Iran of raising unreasonable demands. All this while the geopolitical focus shifted from Tehran to the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war and Tehran's crackdown on its anti-hijab protests. Also, following Western sanctions, they have also contributed to the talks taking a backseat. Earlier, the United States expressed alarm over a full-scale defense partnership between Moscow and Tehran. According to the West, this is, quote, harmful to Ukraine, Iran's neighbors, and the world. Washington described an extended relationship involving equipment such as helicopter and fighter jets, as well as drones. Distressing news continues to come from Iran. The hardline regime has executed a second protester. This is according to the judiciary's news agency. Reports say 23-year-old Majid Reza Rahnavard was hanged for killing two security officials. The statement released by the news agency further accused the protester for, quote, waging a war against God. It is being said that he was hanged in public in the city rather than inside prison. Activists were quick to react on social media, calling it a criminal act by the establishment. Similar condemnations have followed after the execution of the first protester last week, Mohsen Shakeri. He was also given the death penalty. The regime says that he stabbed a security guard and blocked a road during protests. The execution was also slammed by the West and the United Nations. Rights groups have said that Shakeri was tortured and forced to confess. Protests in Iran are soon going to complete 3 months. The protest started with demand to end the hijab mandate, but it has now spiraled into a movement against the government. Demonstrations at this scale are extremely rare in Iran, let alone led by women. The regime has responded with harsh crackdown. Rights groups at least say that at least 488 people have been killed so far. Now, this includes 68 minors. Additionally, 62 security members have also died. Over 18,000 protesters are believed to have been arrested. An end to crackdown does not seem near. Iran's President Ebrahim Raisi has promised to continue with the executions. Amnesty International says at least 21 more protesters are currently on death row in Iran. In Peru, the political chaos takes a violent turn. The latest protest has 2 teens dead and injured 4 other people. Protesters are demanding the country hold general elections. After the ouster of former President Pedro Castillo, last week, President Dina Boluarte was sworn in after Castillo was sacked by the Congress. He was also arrested for attempting to dissolve the legislature in an effort to prevent an impeachment vote against him. For days, many of Castillo's supporters are demanding that Peru hold elections rather than allow Boluarte to stay in power until Castillo's term ends in 2026.
Mi pedido es que al ministro de Interior que cese las balas, por favor. Aquí no podemos tapar el sol con un dedo. Se va a investigarse las heridas, todo lo que están, entonces ahí vamos a ver si es perdigón, si es bala, no sé, si es piedra. Entonces aquí tiene que hacerse justicia.
Para nosotros Dina Boluarte no nos representa, es una traidora, es una incapaz y ahorita tiene que estar presa porque ya hay muchos muertos en el país. Y en ese sentido, nosotros vamos a continuar hasta que nuestro presidente sea puesto en libertad.
Meanwhile, Peru's new president, Dina Boluarte, says that she will submit a bill to Congress to bring general elections forward 2 years to April 2024. She also declared a state of emergency in some areas.
La iniciativa para lograr un acuerdo con el Congreso de la República para adelantar las elecciones generales para el mes de abril del 2024. En los próximos días remitiré al Congreso un proyecto de ley de adelanto de las elecciones generales para ser consensuado con las fuerzas políticas representadas en el Parlamento.
The failed South Korean cryptocurrency boss, Do Kwon, who is reportedly responsible for the $40 billion collapse of the Terra USD and Luna crypto tokens, is believed to be hiding in Serbia. South Korean authorities say that they will work with Serbia to detain Kwon, who is charged with fraud and breaches of capital market law. Earlier, Interpol issued an international warrant for his arrest. According to a prosecutor, Kwon traveled to an unknown country via Dubai after he left Singapore. His firm, Transform, was also headquartered in Singapore. Interpol issued a red notice at Seoul's request against Kwon. South Korea does not have an extradition treaty with Serbia, but earlier both countries have agreed to requests under the European Convention on Extradition. The investor, however, launched lawsuits against KWON in Singapore and the U.S. Till now, KWON has denied the allegations, although he has apologized to the victims after his blockchain systems collapse. According to KWON, the South Korean charges against him are not legitimate and are politically motivated. However, the main cause of the implosion of KWON's cryptocurrencies remains unknown. Last week, the New York Times reported that the U.S. federal prosecutors are reinvestigating if Sam Beekman-Fried, the founder of bankrupt crypto exchange FTX, performed the market manipulation that led to the demise of KWON's twin coins. Well, the World Cup is not coming home to England, but Dave the Cat is. A new football has been unveiled for the semi-final and final. We bring you this and all the stories from the World Cup in our special segment, Extra Time. The England squad took the long journey back to the United Kingdom empty-handed after a quarter-final loss against France, but they are taking home one lucky feline. The stray cat, nicknamed Dave, became a regular around the Three Lions camp, spending time with the players as they relaxed between the World Cup games. He was eventually adopted as the team's unofficial muscat. Manchester City duo John Stones and Kyle Walker promised to adopt the cat if they won the World Cup. Despite their losses in the quarters finals, the pair kept their promise and took the cat along. Meanwhile, as Morocco enters the biggest week of their football lives, they will do so with not only a frenzied nation behind them, but also the players' mothers ready to dance another jig. Images of videos of Morocco's celebrations were widely shared in the aftermath of the victory against Portugal. 29-year-old winger Sofiane Boufal brought his mother onto the pitch to celebrate with him after the match. Holding her hand, he danced with her on the ground. Other players were also seen proudly embracing their mothers in the stand. Legend Kaká and Iker Casillas unveiled the official match ball to be used for World Cup semifinals and final in Doha. The new ball is called Al-Hilm, which in Arabic translates to the dream, and replaces the current ball Al-Rihla, which in Arabic translates to the journey. The ball was made using only water-based inks and glues, becoming the first World Cup ball to utilize such materials. The design features a textured gold base color with multiple-sized triangular patterns throughout, which takes inspiration from the deserts in the region, the colors of the trophy, and the red from Qatar's flag.
Moving forward, and I hope this ball brings a lot of good luck and a lot of good action for.
As I said before, sí, para nosotros ha sido una desilusión tener que caer en octavos de final de este mundial.
Well, every Christmas brings several traditions. For some, it's shopping. For others, it's food. And for the music lovers, it's watching a bunch of musicians singing some of their biggest pop hits. Yes, we are talking about the iHeartRadio Jingle Ball. The ball took place this weekend. Let's get you some highlights from the event.
'Cause every day it's getting colder. What if only I could hold you? I'd rather take the blame 'cause it's easy out of living without you. Yeah, I hide my head in shame 'cause it's easy out of living without you. Come on! Way too much. I need 2 shots to my cup. Wanna get up, wanna get down. Ooh, how you feel?
That's all the time we have for this news desk. Live from New York, I'm Susan Tehrani. Thank you so much for staying with us and watching. Stay tuned for more news and updates coming up on WION.
Official break, Arab.